right. We are now going to be reading one of your books that I've never read before, Rikki-Tikki-Tavi by Rudyard Kipling and illustrated by Jerry Pinkney. Rikki-Tikki-Tavi. I'm excited as always, our special guest. I'm going to read the summary. Here is a thrilling story of Ricky, a fearless young mongoose who develops a very special bond with a boy named Teddy. A flood sweeps Ricky into the garden of an English family's house in India. Soon he finds himself in a life and death struggle with Nag and Nagina, the two enormous cobras who stalk the land. These cobras are willing to attack Ricky and even Teddy and his parents to claim the garden for themselves, but they don't count on the heart and pride of the brave little mongoose. Taken from Rudyard Kipling's timeless masterpiece, The Jungle Book, this unforgettable story has been passed lovingly from one generation of readers to the next, and now triumphantly brought to life in stunning watercolors from Jerry Pinkman. Rikki-Tikki-Tavi. I think I might have read this book. I just don't remember very well. Oh, this is a long one. I can already tell. It starts off with a paragraph. It's like thick pages. Alright, sit in for a long reading. I'm going to sit this way just because it's more comfortable for me and it's going to be a long story. So I will try to show you the pictures though. Okay. This is the story of the Great War that Rikki-Tikki-Tavi fought, all by himself, through the English family's house in India. Rikki-Tikki-Tavi was a mongoose, with fur and a tail like a cat's, and a head like a weasel's. One day a summer flood washed him out of the burrow where he lived with his father and mother, and floated him, kicking and clucking, down a roadside ditch. He found a stick floating near him, and he held onto it until he fainted. When he revived, he was lying in the middle of a garden path, very wet indeed, and the little boy was saying, "Here's a dead mongoose. Let's have a funeral." "No," said his mother. "Let's take him in and dry him. Perhaps he isn't really dead." They took him into the house, where a big man picked him up and said he wasn't dead, just tired. So they wrapped him in cotton and warmed him over a little fire, and he opened his eyes and sneezed. I'm assuming that there's little Rikki-Tikki-Tavi and this English family by the fire. Those are really nice watercolors. "Now," said the big man, who was the boy's father, "don't frighten him, and we'll see what he'll do." It is the hardest thing in the world to frighten a mongoose, because he is full of curiosity from nose to tail. The motto of the mongoose family is "Go and find out," and Rikki-Tikki was a true mongoose. He looked at the cotton and decided it wasn't good to eat, ran all around the table, sat up, scratched himself, and jumped on the boy's shoulder. "Don't be frightened, Teddy," said his father. "That's his way of making friends." "He tickles," said Teddy. Rikki-Tikki snuffled at the boy's ear and climbed down to the floor, where he sat rubbing his nose. "Is he so tame because we helped him?" asked Teddy's mother. "All mongooses are like that," said the husband. "If Teddy doesn't pick him up by the tail, he'll run in and out of the house all day long. Let's give him something to eat." There's the father and Ricky on Teddy's shoulders. They gave him a little piece of raw meat, which Rikki-Tikki liked immensely. "There are more things to find out about in this house," he said to himself, "than all my family could find out in all of their lives. I shall certainly stay and find out." He spent the day roaming around the house. He nearly drowned in the bathtub, put his nose in the ink on the desk, and burned it on the end of the big man's cigar. When Teddy went to bed, Rikki-Tikki climbed up too. Teddy's mother and father came in before they went to bed, and Rikki-Tikki was awake on the pillow. "I don't like this," said Teddy's mother. "He might bite." "He won't," said the father. Teddy's safer with that little animal than a watchdog. If a snake came into his room, but Teddy's mother wouldn't think of anything so awful. That's the ink bottle he dips the nose in. And that's the mom having a very heated argument about Rikki-Tikki sleeping with Teddy. These are some really nice watercolors. It's hard to catch on camera because my camera sucks, but... Ooh, this next page is pretty. Early in the morning, Rikki-Tikki came to breakfast on the porch, riding on Teddy's shoulder, and they gave him banana and some boiled egg. Sorry I'm yawning so much. And he sat on all their laps, one after the other. Then Rikki-Tikki went out into the backyard to see what was to be seen. It was a large yard with rose bushes as big as houses, lime and orange trees, clumps of bamboos. Rikki-Tikki scuttled up and down the garden, snuffling here and there until he heard a very sad voice in the thorn bush. It was Darzy, the tailor bird, and his wife. They made a beautiful nest by pulling 2 leaves together and stitching up the edges, and had filled the inside with fluff. "What's the matter?" asked Rikki-Tikki. It's a very beautiful piece. There's the 2 birdies, and that's Rikki-Tikki. It's a mongoose. "We are miserable," said Darzy. "One of our babies fell out of the nest yesterday, and Nag ate him." "Humph," said Rikki-Tikki. "That is very sad. But I am a stranger here. Who is Nag?" Darzy and his wife cowered down in the nest without answering, for from the thick grass at the foot of the bush there came a low hiss, a horrid cold sound. Then inch by inch out of the grass rose up the head of Nag, the big cobra. He was 5 feet long from tongue to tail. When he had lifted 1/3 of himself clear of the ground, he swayed like a dandelion tuft in the wind, and looked at Rikki-Tikki with the wicked snake's eyes that never changed their expression, whatever the snake may be thinking. "Who is Nag?" said he. "I am Nag. Look, and be afraid." Rikki-Tikki was afraid for a minute, but it is impossible for a mongoose to stay frightened for very long. Rikki-Tikki had never met a live cobra before, but his mother had fed him on dead ones, and he knew that a mongoose's job is to fight and eat snakes. Nag knew that too, and at the bottom of his cold heart, he was afraid. There's the encounter of Nag and Rikki-Tikki the mongoose. "Well," said Rikki-Tikki, "I'm looking, but do you think it is right for you to eat baby birds?" Nag was watching for movement in the grass behind Rikki-Tikki. He knew that mongooses in the garden meant death sooner or later for him and his family. He dropped his head a little and said, "Let's talk. You eat eggs. Why shouldn't I eat birds?" "Behind you! Look behind you!" said Darzy. Rikki-Tikki jumped up in the air as high as he could, and just under him whizzed by the head of Nagaina? I'm going to say Nagaina. It's Nagaina. Nagaina. Nagaina? Nagaina? Okay, I'm gonna go with Nagaina. Nag's wicked wife. She had crept up behind him as he was talking to kill him, and he heard hiss as the stroke missed. He came down almost across her back and bit, but he did not bite long enough, and he jumped away from the whisking tail, leaving Nagaina torn and angry. It was all a diversion so she could bite him. Sneaky little snakes. Wicked, wicked Darzy, said Nag, lashing up as high as he could to reach toward the nest. But Darzy had built it out of reach of snakes. Rikki-Tikki felt his eyes getting hot and angry, and he sat back on his tail and hind legs to look like a little kangaroo and chattered with rage. But Nag and Nagaina had disappeared in the grass. Rikki-Tikki did not follow them, for he did not feel sure he could manage 2 snakes at once. So he trotted off to the gravel path near the house and sat down. Rikki-Tikki was just a young mongoose, and he was very pleased that he had managed to escape an attack from behind. When Teddy came running down the path, Rikki-Tikki was ready to be petted. But just as Teddy was leaning down, something squirmed in the dust, and a tiny voice said, "Be careful, I am death." It was Karate, the little brown sneakling that lies on the dusty grounds in India and whose bite is as dangerous as the cobras. There's Teddy trying to pick up Ricky, and there's Rikki, I think I said. Oh, Karate. The little snake. Rikki-Tikki's eyes grew angry again, and he danced up to Karate with the strange rocking, swaying motion that he had inherited from his family. It looks very funny, but it is so perfectly balanced that he could fly off in any direction he wanted, and in dealing with snakes, this is an advantage. He rocked back and forth, looking for a good place to hold. Karate struck. Ricky jumped sideways, and the wicked little dusty hand lashed right near his shoulder. Teddy shouted to the house, "Come look, our mongoose is killing a snake." And Rikki-Tikki heard a scream from Teddy's mother. His father ran out with the stick, but by the time he came up, Rikki-Tikki had sprung, jumped on the snake's back, bitten as high up as he could, and rolled away. That bite paralyzed Karate, and Rikki-Tikki was just going to eat him up from tail to head, after the custom of his family, when he remembered that a big meal makes a slow mongoose. His first battle. He kills that little snake. Kind of dark for a kid's book, honestly. He went away for a dust bath under the bushes while Teddy's father beat the dead snake. "What's the use of that?" thought Rikki-Tikki. "I've already settled it all." Then Teddy's mother picked him up and hugged him, saying that he had saved Teddy's life. Rikki-Tikki did not understand the fuss. Teddy's mother might just as well as hug Teddy for playing in the mud. Ricky was thoroughly enjoying himself. That night at dinner, walking among the glasses on the table, he could have stuffed himself with good things, but he did not. Though it was very pleasant to be petted, he remembered Nag and Nagaina. From time to time he would give his war cry of Rikki-Tikki-Tikki-Tick. There's the mom hugging Rikki-Tikki, and there's him on the kitchen table. What do you think, Ernie? Is Rikki-Tikki a good mongoose? He's certainly holding his own. Teddy carried him to bed and insisted that Rikki-Tikki sleep under his chin. But as soon as Teddy was asleep, he went for his nightly walk around the house, and in the dark he ran up against Chuchundra, the muskrat. Creeping near the wall, Chuchundra is a scared little beast. He whimpers and cheeps all night, trying to make up his mind to run into the middle of the room, but he never gets there. Don't kill me, says Chuchundra. Rikki-Tikki, don't kill me. Do you think a snake killer kills muskrats? Asked Rikki-Tikki scornfully. Those who kill snakes get killed by snakes, said Chuchundra. And how am I to be sure Nag won't mistake me for you some dark night? There is no danger, said Rikki-Tikki. Nag is in the garden, and you don't go there. My cousin, the rats, told me, said Chuchundra, and then he stopped. Told you what? Hush! Nag is everywhere, Rikki-Tikki. Can't you hear? Rikki-Tikki listened. The house was still as still, but he could just catch a soft scratch, scratch sound. A noise as quiet as the footsteps of a fly on the window pane. The dry scratch of a snake's scale on brick. That's Nag or Nagina, he said, and whoever it is crawling into the bathroom drain. Thank you, Chuchundra. So Rikki and Chuchundra. He is a little fat muskrat. He crept into Teddy's bathroom, but there was nothing there, and to Teddy's parents' bathroom. At the bottom of the plaster wall there was a brick pulled out to make a drain for the bathwater, and as Rikki-Tikki listened, he heard Nag and Nagina whispering together in the moonlight. When the house is emptied of people, said Nagina, he will go away, and then the garden will be ours again. Go in quietly and remember that the big man who killed Kite is the first one to bite. Then come out and we will hunt for Rikki-Tikki. But are you sure that we must kill the people? Asked Nag. Yes, when there was no people in the house, did we have a mongoose in the garden? As long as the house is empty, we are king and queen of the garden. Remember that as soon as our eggs hatch, our children will need room and quiet. I had not thought of that, said Nag. I will go, but there is no need to hunt for Rikki-Tikki. I will kill the man and woman and the child if I can. Then the house will be empty and Rikki-Tikki will leave. Rikki-Tikki tingled all over with rage at this. Then Nag's head came through the drain. His 5-foot cold body followed it. Angry as he was, Rikki-Tikki was very frightened when he saw the size of the cobra. Nag raised his head and looked into the bathroom, and Rikki could see his eyes glitter in the dark. When Kite was killed, the man had a stick, said the snake. But when he comes to bathe in the morning, he won't have it. I'll wait till he comes. Nagina, do you hear me? I'll wait here till daytime. There was no answer, so Rikki-Tikki knew Nagina had gone away. Nag coiled himself down, coil by coil, around the bottom of the water jar that was used to fill the bath. Rikki-Tikki stayed as still as death. After an hour he began to move, muscle by muscle, towards the jar. Nag was asleep, and Rikki-Tikki looked at him, wondering how to attack. If I don't break his back at the first jump, thought Rikki, he can still fight. And if he fights all, Rikki... It must be the head, he decided finally, and I must not let go. Then he jumped. As he bit, Ricky braced his back against the water jar to hold down the snake's head. Then he was battered back and forth as a toy is shaken by a dog, back and forth and up and down and around in circles. But he held on as the snake's body whimpered across the floor and banged against the side of the bathtub. He closed his jaws tighter and tighter, for he was sure that he would be banged to death, and for the honor of his family he wanted to be found with his teeth locked in. He was dizzy, aching, and felt shaken to pieces when something went off like a thunderclap just behind him. A red fire singed his fur. Teddy's father had been wakened by the noise and fired a shotgun into Nag. Rikki-Tikki held down with his eyes shut, for now he was sure he was dead. But the man picked him up and said, "It's the mongoose again. The little guy has saved our lives now." Shoot him with the shotgun. Good grief. It's one way to kill a snake, I guess. When morning came, Rikki-Tikki was very stiff, but well pleased with himself. Now I have Nagaina to deal with, and she will be worse than 5 nags. There is no knowing when the eggs will hatch. I must go see Darcy, he said. Without waiting for breakfast, Rikki-Tikki ran to the thorn bushes, where Darcy was singing a song of triumph at the top of his voice. The news of Nag's death was all over the garden, because his body had been put on the garbage heap. "Oh, you stupid tuft of feathers," said Rikki-Tikki. "Is this the time to sing?" "Nag's dead, dead, dead," sang Darcy. The valiant Rikki-Tikki caught him by the head and held tight. The big men brought the bang stick, and Nag broke in 2 pieces. "He will never eat my babies again." "You're safe enough in your nest there," said Rikki-Tikki, "but it's war for me down here. Stop singing a minute, Darcy." "For the great Rikki-Tikki's sake, I will stop," said Darcy. "What is it, O killer of terrible Nag?" "Where is Nagina?" "On the garden heap by the stables, mourning for Nag, great Rikki-Tikki of the white teeth." "Never mind my white teeth. Do you know where she keeps her eggs?" "In the melon bed, on the end nearest the wall, where the sun strikes nearly all day." "Rikki-Tikki, you're not going to eat her eggs?" "No, not eat exactly. Darcy, can you fly off to the stables and pretend your wing is broken, and let Nagina chase you back to this bush? I must get to the melon bed, and if I went there now, she'd see me." Darcy knew that Nagina's children were born in eggs like his own, so he didn't think it was fair to kill them. But his wife was a sensible bird, and she knew that a cobra's eggs meant young cobras later on. So she flew from the nest and left Darcy to keep the babies warm. She flew in front of Nagina and cried out, "My wing is broken! The boy in the house threw a stone at me and broke it." Nagina lifted up her head and hissed, "You've picked a bad place to be lame in." And she moved toward the bird, slipping along over the dust. "The boy broke it with a stone," cried Darcy's wife. "Well, it may please you to know that when you're dead, I will deal with him. Before night, the boy in the house will lie very still. Now, what's the use of running away? I'm sure to catch you." But Darcy's wife fluttered on, never leaving the ground, and Nagina slithered faster. That's Nagina chasing away at the poor bird. Did I show you the previous? I don't think I showed you the previous one. It's Ricky arguing with birds. Rikki-Tikki heard them going up the path, and he raced for the end of the melon patch near the wall. There, very cleverly hidden, he found 25 small eggs. I was just in time, he thought, for he could see the baby cobras curled up inside the skin, and he knew that the minute they were hatched they could each kill a man or a mongoose. He bit off the tops of the eggs as fast as he could, crushing the deadly young snakes. At last there were only 3 eggs left, and he heard Darzy's wife screaming, "Rikki-Tikki, I led Nagina toward the house, and she has gone into the porch, and oh, come quickly, she means killing." What room? That's a lot of eggs. Rikki-Tikki smashed 2 eggs, and with the 3rd egg in his mouth, scuttled onto the porch as fast as he could. Teddy and his mother and father were at breakfast, but they were not eating anything. They were stone cold still, and their faces were pale. Nagina was coiled up within easy striking distance of Teddy's bare leg, and she was swaying back and forth, singing a song of triumph. "Son of the man who killed the nag," she hissed, "stay still. Keep very still, all 3 of you. If you move, I strike, and if you do not move, I strike. Oh, foolish people who killed my nag." Teddy's eyes were fixed on his father, but all his father could do was whisper, "Sit still, Teddy. Don't move. Sit still." The very tense breakfast table. Then Rikki-Tikki came up and cried, "Turn around, Nagina. Turn and fight." "All in good time," she said, without moving her eyes. "I'll deal with you later. Look at your friends, Rikki-Tikki. They dared not move, and if you come a step nearer, I strike." "Look at your eggs in the melon patch," said Rikki-Tikki. "Go and look, Nagina." The snake turned half around and saw the egg. "Give it to me," she said. Rikki-Tikki held the egg. What price for a snake's egg? For a young cobra, for the very last of the brood. The ants are eating all the others down by the melon patch. Nagina spun around, forgetting everything for the sake of 1 egg, and Rikki-Tikki saw Teddy's father grab Teddy by the shoulder and drag him across the table with the teacups, out of reach of Nagina. "Tricked! Tricked! Tricked!" "Rick-tick-tick," called Rikki-Tikki. "The boy is safe, and it was I that caught Nag last night in the bathroom. He threw me back and forth, but he could not shake me off. He was dead before the man killed him. I did it. Rikki-Tick-Tick. Come, Nagina, come and fight me." Nagina saw that she had lost her chance of killing Teddy, and the egg lay between Rikki-Tikki's paws. "Give me the egg, Rikki-Tikki, and I will go away and never come back," she said. "Yes, you'll never come back, because you'll be dead. Fight, Snake. The man has gone for his gun. Fight." Rikki is really goading the snake. Rikki-Tikki was bouncing all around Nagina, keeping just out of her reach. Nagina gathered herself together and struck out at him. Rikki-Tikki jumped up and back. Again and again she struck, each time her head hit with a whack on the matting of the porch. Then Rikki-Tikki danced in a circle to get behind her, and Nagina spun around to face him. Rikki-Tikki had forgotten the egg. It lay on the porch. Nagina came nearer and nearer to it, till at last, while Rikki-Tikki was taking a breath, she caught it in her mouth, turned to the steps, and flew down the path. with Rikki-Tikki behind her. Rikki-Tikki knew he must catch her or all the trouble would begin again. She headed straight for the long grass by the thorn bush, and as he was running, Rikki-Tikki heard Darzee still singing his song of triumph. But Darzee's wife was smarter. She flew off of her nest as Nagaina came along and flapped her wings at Nagaina's head. Nagaina only lowered her head and went on, but the instant's delay let Rikki-Tikki catch up to her, and as she plunged into the hole where she and Nag used to live, his little white teeth were clenched on her tail. Ooh, he caught her. No escape for this little snake. Rikki-Tikki went down with her, and very few mongooses, however wise and old they may be, cared to follow a cobra into its hole. It was dark in the hole, and Rikki-Tikki never knew when it might whiten and give Nagaina room to turn and strike at him. When the grass by the mouth of the hole stopped waving, Darzee said, "It is all over with Rikki-Tikki. We must sing his death song, for Nagaina will surely kill him underground." So he sang a very mournful song that he had just made up, and right at the saddest part, the grass quivering again, and Rikki-Tikki dragged himself out of the hole leg by leg, licking his whiskers. Rikki-Tikki soon shook some of the dust out of his fur and sneezed. "It's all over," he said. "The snake will never come out again." And the red ants that lived between the grass stems heard him and began to troop down to the hole to see if he had spoken the truth. There's a bird and the little ant to investigate, and Rikki-Tikki leaving the hole apparently triumphant. When Rikki got to the house, Teddy and Teddy's mother and Teddy's father came out and almost cried over him. And that night he ate everything that was given to him until he could eat no more. He went to bed on Teddy's shoulder where Teddy's mother saw him, and she looked in late at night. "He saved our lives," she said to her husband. "Just think, he saved all our lives." Rikki-Tikki woke with a jump, for all mongooses are light sleepers. "Oh, it's you," he said. "What are you awake for? All the cobras are dead, and if they weren't, I'm here." Rikki-Tikki had a right to be proud of himself, and he kept the garden as a mongoose should keep it, with a tooth and jump and spring and bite, till never a cobra dared show his head inside the walls. And there's Teddy and his parents. There's Rikki-Tikki right on his shoulder. And that's it. That was the tale of Rikki-Tikki-Tavi. A little dark, I will say, but what a triumphant and determined little mongoose.